Let's get one thing straight today. Men don't burn out from doing too much. Men burn out from carrying everything alone. We've been the provider, the rock, the unwavering problem solver. But I need you to hear this. We cannot run a high performance machinery at the red line 24/7 without eventually needing a maintenance check. Your mind is no different. Today, we're opening up the invisible backpack. It's time to unpack this unnecessary weight. Look, welcome back to Jay's Corner. I'm your host, Coach Jay. Remember, our motto here is always allies, not adversaries. Even if those allies are from the outside or even from within, and even if those adversaries sometimes are not from the outside, sometimes they come from within. We always believe around here that it's better to be allies than adversaries. We're always in this together. Now, before I dive into our topic today, man, I have some great news to share, and I'm going to try to bring this up on the screen here. I tested it several times to make sure that it works. But you guys, look, I'm very excited, um, incredibly hyped to announce the upcoming release of my brand new book, The Mental Clarity Reset for Men, a practical guide to reclaiming your mind, your peace, and your power. Now, look, it's important that you guys know that I wrote this book because I was tired of seeing good, strong men suffering in silence. And more importantly, when they try to do something about it, they were considered weak. They was considered not being a man for the most part in society. So this guide is it's not about perfection. It's not about being a real man. You don't need another impossible standard to try to live up to. Men don't need a lecture on trying harder or a rigid, exhausting 50-step morning routine. What it's all about, it's about clarity. It's about cutting through the noise to figure out what actually matters and then reclaim your mind. It's for the man who is tired of holding everything together alone. And so we're going to be dropping this soon. And trust me, it's a game changer. It's a practical guide. Even has a 7-day exercise, man. Very simplistic. And what I'll be doing tonight, hopefully, I'm going to be sharing you some raw truths from the manuscript directly from the book with you today. So let's lock in, man, and get this one here started. And like I said, we'll be referring to the mental clarity reset for men more throughout this actual podcast. So let's just get started. The silent expectations. Now, a lot of this is going to come across atypical than probably what you've already heard. Number one, because it's coming from a man. Number two, it's coming from a black man. And number three, I was talking to some friends and we were saying this. In general, I think there are a lot of things when it comes to men that are implied that are not as implied when it comes to other genders and quite frankly other species. When a woman needs help, for the most part, there are things and entities that can be called upon. As a matter of fact, when an animal, stray dog, stray cat needs help, for the most part, there's a place you can readily call and get immediate access. But really why this topic is so important and be transparent. And again, I want to make sure that because I'm making this topic one today on our podcast, that's not equivalent to gender wars, the gender bias that we usually hear. That's one of the things that we're going to try to break throughout this conversation is that there's a time and a place where we have to talk about the mental wellness and the well-being of our counterparts, our women and our black women, more importantly. But then there's also a needed space to do the same for men, because for the most part, there are not too many places where men, especially black men, can go and really deal with their true emotions without being called weak or quit complaining or suck it up, or all these other different concepts that you kind of heard out here. And so that's why the mental clarity reset for men is not only important just for the outside community, but men, man, we got to do a better job. A lot of times we just buy into that, even if it's at the demise of us emotionally and sometimes even physically. And so let's just talk about this invisible backpack, right? There's a weight men carry that rarely gets spoken out loud. You see it. You see the effects of it. We whisper it in our corners or maybe in our little groups or what have you. And it's not the weight of responsibilities. And I want to be very clear with that. A lot of time we confuse that. Well, that's what a man's supposed to do. That's almost insensitive as, well, that's just what a woman's supposed to do, right? Like, we're human first. And so I want to make sure we clarify that this weight is not the weight of responsibilities, the mortgage, the job, the family logistics, things of that sort. For the most part, we know how to handle that type of work, for the most part. The actual burden of grinding men down is the invisible weight of expectations. The expectations behind these things. The heaviest load a man can carry isn't the endless list of responsibilities. It's the silent expectation that he must endure them without ever showing the strain, without ever showing the burden that it can actually cause. Society tell men that their value is directly tied to their utility and their endurance. So you learn to absorb the shockwaves of life without flinching. You start believing that that's equivalent to being a man. But human beings are not designed to be shock absorbers indefinitely. Most men don't collapse because they're weak. They collapse because they've been strong for so long without any safe place to set the weight down. I want you to really think about this. From time to time, you know, I share a lot of my personal story. I'll be transparent with you. That's more the reason why I'm seeing the therapist that I'm seeing in this season is because I got to the point I'm dealing with this. And this is something my LB and we talk about on our brotherly check-in call every Monday at 8:00. We're doing all these things and we're seeing that these things that we're getting accomplished. So we seeing these things going up on one aspect of our lives, but it's like, but why am I feeling like this? Why am I feeling depleted as far as an energy standpoint? Okay, I've accomplished all this by the end of the day, and everybody's celebrating this part. Hey, you got that done. Yeah, you the man and things of that sort. But I don't get to talk to nobody about this over here, y'all. I don't get permission to say that I'm empty. Even if I've done for everybody and everything and got all the chores done and everything what everybody want me to do, why am I feeling this way? Why can't I not reconcile even with myself to even deal with this? Because guess what? The next day I got to go back up here. I got to get back on these things because guess what? If I'm not holding these things up about myself, if I'm not talking about these things by myself, or quite frankly, dealing with some of these things about myself, then guess what? These things start fall. And guess what they fall on? They fall on the things already down here. So why is it even when it's sometimes I'm at my best, there is a real reality, a part of me. And this is the part that I said we have to challenge. This is the part that's usually misunderstood, right? Because when we try to talk about this, this is where we'll quit being weak. Well, this is not being a man or suck it up. Or even sometimes, fellas, we buy into it. So we just kind of ignore this, right? And we just kind of put our reward in this. But that's why I said earlier, our value shouldn't come into our utility. And so I found myself getting to that point. In my LB and we were just having a real conversation. Quite frankly, we found ourselves at that same space, not knowing if we should speak on it. And then more importantly, not knowing how to speak on it. Because the only thing that we have been told subconscious that, hey, you got these things going for you. But man, day 1, day 2, day 3, so on and so forth, you have them going for you, but now you got to do what it takes to keep them consistently up there. But you can't talk about what you're putting into that invisible backpack, man. And so quite frankly, man, we had to just let go and just start opening up, not necessarily even doing anything about it, but just the fact that we could create a safe space to express that and even justify and rationalize in our own mind that this is part of being a man. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. We have to get that toxic masculinity fellas out of our circle, that, hey, when we do talk about our emotions, it has to look like this and fit like that. And we can't do certain things because that's associated with the other gender. Says who, right? Sometimes it almost like we have to go against the grain of this toxic masculinity that we've been taught and really just get it out there before we even talking about dealing with it. And so eventually, man, I made the decision along with some other things. Hey, man, I gotta get through this stuff right here. And so, needless to say, my counselor and I, we are working through some things, which led me to kind of see the need to put the mental clarity reset for men out for their liking. Let's turn our attention now to, and it's a topic in my new upcoming book, the mental clarity reset for men, which I think is so important. Now, I'm not here to try to give you the whole breakdown of the actual project within itself, but you'll be the first to know when the book is readily available. We're just putting some final touches on there, but there is one chapter in there that I kind of want to highlight. And I think a lot of times, even me, we don't understand the difference between pressure versus capacity. So even like this book here, The Mental Clarity Reset for Men, even though it's targeted toward the male audience, I think it would be very beneficial also within our female gender and among women, because now it helps them peer on the inside of the mindset of men. All the women out there that are watching, I think it will also be a good project to help you understand the mindset of what we can't say, right? What we're dealing with, what we're going to, if nothing else, to allow you guys to understand us, and at best to be a compliment to some of the things that we actually deal with. And so within the mental clarity reset for men, there is a chapter called Pressure versus Capacity. Now, I think a lot of time when we get it wrong, we ask ourselves the wrong questions. And I'm speaking for our men counterparts. We say, how much can I take? Right? That's a big one, right? And we quickly associate or align that to being a man. How much can I push through before I collapse? Which I think that is very dangerous, but that's a conversation for another day, because we associate being able to push through more as equivalent with being a man. So what we do, we treat endurance like a badge of honor. And we even start judging each other about, oh man, sucked it up. I man, I've been through that. Oh, toughen up. And so we wear like a badge of honor, but we never ask, what's the trade-off? And what's sad to say, us a lot of time we as men, we don't even realize that, is the trade-off valuable time? Is it peace of mind? Could it be our health, like I talked about in other podcasts, where we don't even realize that we're taking some time off the back end of our lives just to uphold this endurance like a badge and be able to say that I got it, you know? And so I think we ask the wrong questions, as no as the one nobody teaches us to ask, which is the question I think is more important. How much can I carry well, right? How much can I carry well? Now there is more of a thought process that's outside of that male ego, right? Now it kind of gets down to the crux of well-being. It's more of a system of checks and balances, and it allows you to deal with truth, not necessarily as a badge, but as a checkup for as what are your strengths, weaknesses, and more important, what is your limitations? See, you see, there's a massive difference between carrying a heavy load with a strong, grounded posture and carrying it like a thrown out back, trembling legs, and a grimace, right? Never forget, man, when I was in college, I was working at UPS. They teach you that even though that's material, is box, whatever, is way heavier or outweigh you in capacity, there's a proper way in which you actually lift that actual load temporarily to put it from one place to the next. But then there's also an unhealthy way in doing it. And I do think, just from that analogy, we as men, like I said, we've gotten so used to this endurance badge that we put on ourselves that just equivalent to men, as if we need anything to validate our manhood, that we have made it synonymous with carrying things the wrong way as if it's carrying the right way. And I think what's so sad about it, to kind of even bring it full circle, even when we're diagnosed and we're carrying it the wrong way, we don't even see it, and it could be even ultimately to our demise. So again, there's a difference between carrying a heavy load the correct way and the wrong way, which brings me to the concept from the book, Pressure versus Capacity. Pressure is what life puts on you day to day. Everybody get their turn. Work deadlines, family needs, unexpected problems, so on and so forth. You can't stop pressure from existing, right? You can be good one day and the next, guess what? It's your turn. And so that pressure is a continuous cycle. But the capacity is where you can carry without breaking yourself in the process. Just because those responsibilities are there, it does not mean that we should ignore capacity. Because just being able to do it by myself, being able to say I got it done by myself, I don't need any help, that's not what makes us a man. What makes us a man in part is being able to be truthful, not only by recognizing the pressure and addressing the pressure, yes, but are we doing ourselves a service or disservice by identifying what is the capacity that we can carry without breaking ourselves in the process? And that's why I say burnout doesn't happen just because pressure is high. See, that's why I say let's throw away the gender biases that sometimes we use in addressing this. It happens in the dangerous gap between high pressure and low capacity. Remember what I said up here, right? High pressure to complete and maintain this level, but the low capacity because no one is addressing the burnout. No one's addressing the emptiness. No one is addressing the reality that, hey, as a man, I get limited. I have my own weaknesses. I have my own shortcomings. And so that's where it becomes dangerous because remember what I said, this is the daily life thing. And so now I have to continue being stuck in this dangerous gap. And so that's where it gets dangerous, even with us as men, from the toxic masculinity that we've been taught, that we don't ever stop and think because we're closely assigning that with just being a man. So men, our capacity actively shrinks when we neglect the machinery that generates it. That's our mind and our body. And that's why I hate, well, hate is a strong word, but that's why I dislike when I'm around men who are so gone within that toxic masculinity that they think it's just this thing or this pill you take. It's just being a man. No. Um, when we neglect the machinery that is used to make these decisions, to do these things, whether we recognize it or not, our mind and our body, then it goes lacking. Right? And we don't even have to pull up the statistics when it comes compared to our sisters and our counterpart and our women for as how we take care of our mind and our body as opposed to our counterparts, right? Like the numbers are shocking of the difference. Now we've came a long way, but some of these things we just have to be truthful about. And so that's why I said that toxic masculinity, where we are taught within our own culture and just passed down that this is just being a man with no thought or no consideration to our mental well-being and our body. And even when we put our bodies right first, which we should, there's a fall off when it comes to the mental part, right? We've gotten a little bit better in exercising, working out, taking care of our body, but usually it's that mind is the one that's left alone, and it is associated with an assumption that we should already know it because that's equivalent to just being a man. So think about it like this. When you don't rest, when you bottle up frustration, like when you shove your anger into a mental locker room and lose the key, what happens? Yes, we're functioning on a high level, but this stuff down here again, I'll keep using this analogy. We done shoved that to the side under the bed, and even don't let my homeboys, my frat brothers see it because, hey, I'm being a man. And yeah, I got that accomplished. But just imagine you just continue doing that. Again, this is a day-to-day thing. Could you imagine if you shove all that anger into a mental locker and then you just lose the key? Because you're just comfortable that you have somewhere to put it, but you're never actually dealing with it, right? And that's something that I say again, I had to be very transparent with myself. Even now, if I'm transparent, working with my therapist as far as how to get sleep. Why am I not sleeping? Some of the weight gain that I learned that's associated with lack of sleep. What I didn't realize is that I'm taking all this mental stress throughout the day to perform at a high level, and I'm just stuffing it in that mental locker room. All these things I can't talk to nobody, or I feel I can't talk to nobody about, or hey, don't nobody give a care about these things, right? I'm a man. I have to soak it up and get it done, because where are these spaces at? Where are these spaces at that we go and I dare ask for help? I dare ask for understanding. And so what I didn't realize, I'm tucking all this stuff into this mental locker, and I lost the key. And the trade-off was when I finally did rest, and I could have everything cut off, turned off, dark room, music playing the whole 9 yards. As a creative, my mind is racing. Because like I said, everyone sees these things that I'm doing at a high level. But you know the unfortunate fact about it, fellas? And I know we all can relate to this, whether we admit it or not. This is the part we got to live with ourselves, even by ourselves at times. See, everyone sees these things. You can get the accolades for these things, the recognition for these things, because usually these things are done in the face of society. But just like I had to learn when I'm in that personal closet myself, that I've convinced everybody up here and got the badge and accolades, usually that's where the dangerous gap is at. The things that we have become accustomed, as the analogy is used, we've lost the key. We can't even get in there. We're just study putting stuff in there. And now when it's time to bring all that out and deal with it, it's so bunched up because it's so crammed up for so many days and so many months and so many years. It's hard for us to even diagnose it. And then we take it out on the people at times around us, because we've not dealt with it so long that we've become unfamiliar with it within ourselves. And so it's very important to understand how pressure and capacity correlates, especially with us as men, to make sure that it's not only that we're rewarding ourselves for the fact that we can do these things, but we can now start asking the correct question: do we have the capacity to get them fulfilled and to do them at a high level on a consistent basis, right? So let's talk about another part of this conversation, and you'll find this also again in the Mental Clarity Reset for Men, my fourth book that's coming here soon, man. I am excited about this project. Very user friendly. This is not like I said, I tried to own what I am, and I try not to be what I'm not, if you will. I had the privilege of a couple of months ago to sit on a mental wellness health panel with some great LPCs, counselors, therapists, and things of that sort. And we kind of talked about that, making sure that when we are trying to help people, with myself being a a certified life coach, but then you have counselors, you have therapists, you have psychosocial therapists. Like, all of these titles serve a different purpose. And in order to service people the best way and make sure you're meeting people and in their needs, that you're not overstepping, right? Trying to be something that you're not. But the reason why we have these array of titles and different levels of education is that depending on what help you need, you can just plug and play. And like I said, it's not another one of these quick serums and truth serums and promises that do this in 6 days. This is going to actually happen, but it's very practical, because I like to think that it's written from an application standpoint that I've been able to apply and go through my trial and error. And it just so happened to work from an objective standpoint. And it's like, hey, man, let's get this information and share it with people who maybe not as fortunate to have the people that I've been blessed with in my circle. And so I think you'll enjoy the Mental Clarity Reset for Men, an easy read, something that's plug and play. You don't have to have this very in-depth knowledge. You don't have to take a look and change yourself and you're doing this wrong. It's just about making those adjustments. And so Another one of those topics, and I want to kind of get into right now, is the plight of the strong friend. And this is definitely one that I think a lot of times we as men, and I'll say this, we've been propped up from the get-go to look at this one wrong. Because even though the topic is about the plight of the strong friend, this can apply in relationships. This can apply also in families. And that's why I said in the beginning, some of this information is going to sound very atypical, because I think sometimes we just subconsciously expect a man just to be like a laptop or a phone, right? It's supposed to just continue to function, right? When I press the button, it's supposed to come on. But even those devices have a reset. And that's what we're talking about, the importance of today. Where do men go to have a reset in a space where they're not utilized in the moment until they can fully reset themselves? And men, when do we recognize that we need to kind of pull ourselves back? You know, you can't use your phone while you're resetting it. There has to be an intentional space that whether a call come in, I need it for this. Hey, the pressure we talked about, we don't have the capacity right now. We're resetting. And so the plight of the strong friend, I think, is going to be a very eye-opening one. Like I said before, for us as men, if we're transparent with ourselves, but also I think it'll also help our female counterparts understand the ideology of what we actually go through, far as that sometimes false expectation of be everything to everybody, right? So I want to talk directly to the designated crisis managers right now, right? And I use that analogy, if you will, or that term intentionally. The designated crisis managers. I want you to think about that for a minute. The guys who are the emotional anchors for their families, frat brothers, their co-workers, group of friends, whatever. The hard truth for the dependable man to accept is that holding everyone else together does not make him immune to falling apart himself. When you're the strong friend, when you're the strong one, you adopt a job description you never applied for. Your competence has become your camouflage. People assume that you're fine because your baseline is always survival. But strong friends don't explode, they erode. It happens slowly, silently, and internally. See, what happens, we fall apart in private. Remember what I said, we're celebrated up here, but all these things we've trained, don't give that to everybody. You're going to be laughed at. And so this process is usually a slow internal process of falling apart privately, even if I'm a success publicly, in the driver's seat of a parked car, in the shower, or staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. You cannot endlessly output energy without taking it in. We deserve the support also. And it has to start by, and I think I used an analogy like this, my sister Maxine Water. Fellas, sometimes we got to reclaim our time. We're putting so much out in the world and we're carrying so much responsibility, and it's becoming a toxic behavior that we're developing by not reclaiming that time to actually recharge or reevaluate what our true capacity is, and being able to be bold enough to speak on the fact that if we just do not have that capacity, at the expense of what anybody thinks. Okay, if that's what you think about, okay, that's fine. But I know I need to go and get recharged. I know I need to go and work on this actual thing. And even if it does, and I can tell you, as insulting, as hurtful, as hurt, that most men won't say it, there is nothing more insulting than being told that because you have a limitation, you're not a man. Right? We may not say it, act on it, and we got our tough ego on, but that one of the most insulting things that you can ever do or say or make a man feel is because of his human imperfection or his human limitations. You equate that with him not being a real man. And so, fellas, we have to do better, because like I said again, we can't endlessly output energy without taking anything in. I don't know if you guys watch one of my episodes for the Jay's Corner, but like I told you, a pastor told me one time, if I keep pouring and sharing with everybody from my cup, what happens when I run out? I can't keep pouring. And more important, what's left for me? Yeah, that expectation is still going to be there. James, give me some. James, give me some. Jay, give me some. Give me some. But what happens when Jay gets thirsty, right? Do I only get my thirst quenched based on the fact of me being able to give? Well, that's not going to be sustainable as long, because eventually I'm going to get empty. That's just the truth of the actual matter. And so I think we as men, that's why I said the mental clarity reset. We don't need to be told that we're not men or this is not breaking news. Sometimes we just need a reset, because holding that up for so long and doing it at a high level, yeah, that's great and good because look who all benefit from it. But sometimes, man, we get empty. And fellas, we have to quit equating that as a bad thing when it comes to us being men. Human beings get empty. Our female counterparts get empty. There are times they just have to recharge. There are just times they have to step back and do for themselves in order for them to do for everyone else. Well, it's the same thing with us. That does not come with a gender. Asking for backup is never a white flag for surrender. Fellas, we got to get out of this mindset of asking for help. I was with my cigar club at a cigar lounge, and that's one of the things that we talked about. And I love the fact that's consistent. Is a lot of time we can be around the right people, with the right thing, with the right resource, with the right help. And simply because of our ego and our pride of being a quote unquote man, we think that asking for backup or help is waving a white flag. I'm not a man anymore, or it's going to change us being a man, like whatever analogy we have in our head. But it's the tactical brilliance of a man, in my humble opinion, who knows his life is too important to carry alone. And I'm talking about far beyond companionship of a woman. That's one of our greatest resources. But there are just some things that we want to make sure that we don't overcompensate our female counterparts that they are not supposed to give. They can't give it on their best day. There are just some things that we have to be open minded and reevaluate. That is our responsibility to recognize when we're feeling that we're operating at a low level, that we have to do some things to recharge and re-energize ourselves, to make sure that we're, again, asking the correct question. What's the capacity for me to carry this morning? Do I have the capacity to carry it at this morning? If you remember, the strongest and the smartest commanders don't go into a firefight alone. They don't just rush in there by themselves, no equipment, no backup, haven't called for help. That's not the reality. They call in air support when the ground gets too hot. In other words, they recognize that even though I may have to do this alone, be the first to go in, whatever analogy you want to use, I'm also cognizant of the fact that it's not just going to take me. And that's the biggest thing that I think we as Black men specifically have to make sure that we understand. Look, there are some things, and I interchangeably do this for a reason. And so let me get on my soapbox for a minute, because I don't want people to try to think that I'm gonna apologize for differentiating when I say men, but then also drilling down on Black men. Yes, there are things as men, just as a gender, that this lies to. But I want to also make sure that I am being responsible on this platform in addressing the things also that Black men individually go through that for the most part our other counterparts don't. There are some things that we as Black men automatically go through, whether we like it or not, right or wrong, but it's just a reality because of the color of our actual skin. And so that's why we cannot afford to have these other things being caught up in this toxic masculinity, because like I said, what we do not talk about, what's added on to that, is the mental strains and the mental illnesses and the mental unhealthy things that we also deal with, usually aligned at the same time that we're dealing with these physical health issues. And so that's why it's so important for us fellas, especially as Black men. I had a conversation with one of my big brothers in my fraternity, Alpha Phi Fraternity Corporation. Shouts out to you, Stephen Kincaid. And he was saying something one day, he was saying, Jay, as much as you're doing well to help people understand their mental, don't forget the physical. And we were just talking about how both of those things is the balance. Yes, we go work out, take care of our body, eat right and whatnot, but make sure we putting something up here. And that's where I drill down to say we as Black men, we have to give ourselves a fair chance, because we know when we step outside those doors, there are going to be some things, like I said, whether people want to hear it or not, we're going to have to deal with just because of the color of our skin. And unfortunately, we don't have a place in society to talk about these things. Usually the platform in which we're dealing with them in the present time, usually we're always told either be quiet about it or this is not the right time and space, right? And so these are the things that I said that our female counterparts can understand with the upcoming book, what the mental clarity reset looks like when it comes to men. We're not pushing you away. We're not saying we don't need you and things of that sort. But sometimes we just need a reset because we've carried some things forcefully as Black men. We can't talk about those things without it. Oh, that's politically incorrect or that's being insensitive, whatnot. But yet we're still having to deal with it and deal with the ramifications. And so that's why I say sometimes the only time that we get to deal with it is when we realize that we're slowly, silently, and internally falling apart. And that's usually in those solitude places. In the park car where you pull up, and you just got to sit there for a minute. In the shower, when all your thoughts is you're hoping that you can wash them down the drain just like the dirt falling off your body. Or staring in the ceiling at 3 a.m. where your physical body needs rest, guilty. But guess what? Your mind can't get any rest. And more important, you got to continue this vicious loop because the days don't stop. So it's very important for us as men, yes, as a body, to recognize this, but also it's important that we as Black men recognize why this is important, because there is a fact that we deal with another set of realities that for the most part no one deal with except us as Black men. So let's be mindful of this. Like I said, I'm very excited about this project, the Mental Clarity Reset for Men, a practical guide to reclaiming your mind, your peace, and your power. Like I said, this is not where it's trying to teach you how to be something that you're not. What it does, it allows you to just look at your life objectively, take a step back, and what are some healthy habits that I can just plug and play right into how my life is, right? Because sometimes, I say the old saying is that, life doesn't take any commercial breaks. So sometimes I don't have the time to take a week off and let me reset. No, it's not that formal thing. And so what the Mental Clarity Reset for Men will be able to do is just, hey, look at your week. For the most part, look at your week and start day by day, literally Sunday through Saturday. And how do I reclaim some of my mental space? How do I reclaim some of my peace? And more important, how do I reclaim some of my power as I go throughout my Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so on and so forth? So by the time I get back to Sunday, okay, I'm getting a little bit better. And what it also does is show you what you probably need to change or reevaluate or tweak, but it also gives you some healthy habits that will hopefully break this toxic masculinity that we haven't been taught correctly on, that's going to challenge our minds to allow us to not only just reclaim some of this mental space, some of this peace, and some of this power, but how do we value it, more importantly, to make sure, man, that we don't lose it again. Look, fellas, just keep in mind, we can't outrun a foggy mind. I don't care how much we do, how much we try to fake to people. As something me and my LB Derek, we talk about. And we even see it in our circle of just being transparent. Got some great things going on. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and going here and there. But man, the truth of the matter is, as I said again, you cannot outrun a foggy mind. Clarity doesn't come from speed. Clarity comes from space. And I don't care how busy you keep yourself, going here, going there, planning that, doing this, going out, going here. When it's time to come home, you're going to have to slow down. And if you really want that clarity, it's going to come about recognizing the mental space that you're able to give yourself. And part of that responsibility, fellas, you're going to have to be truthful with yourself when you look in the mirror. Just told my son about that. If you find yourself running from this foggy mindset, it's not going to clear it up anytime soon. So you can run all you want. That clarity is not going to come from running. It's going to come from recognizing and owning that space that you need to reset. So as I said again, in the book, I break down a 7-day reset plan and a micro habits that actually work. I think one of the things that we as men, we like our own way of doing things. And so that's why I say these are habits that you can actually adopt while still being yourself. I think one of the biggest mistakes when it comes to counseling or therapy with men, and sometimes we have a phobia where we have to lose ourselves, right? Other than do we trust it, because we know how we've been used and treated when it comes to anything dealing with our mind. But I think another thing is, like, I don't want to lose myself, right? I don't have to throw my whole self away. Like, there are some good points. And so what you'll notice that in my upcoming book, what I do, I break down 7-day reset plan and micro habits, small, measurable micro habits that actually work. Things like the 60-second reset, just stopping once an hour to breathe deeply and manually override your nervous system. Something just that simple that we have been taught as men, that's being weak, man. That's what you mean and whatnot. But just something as what I talk about, the 60-second reset, just stopping once an hour, just every hour, just stopping. Because a lot of time when we get strenuous, the trade-off that we don't realize when things get overwhelming, that's when we start just getting desperate and making irrational decisions, or more like what I would like to call reactionary decisions instead of proactive decisions. And if it works, but we don't talk about it, we don't deal with, fellas, a lot of time about the ones that don't work. Or even if it works for the outside people and it fools them. But as I said earlier, it's a hard and an unfortunate trade-off for our mental well-being and our physical well-being. So like I said, something as simple as the 60-second reset is not something that's redefining who you are. And like I said, I call them micro habits that we can start building, in this case, help reset that override that happens to our nervous system when we're just in a jam, so to speak. Or something that you'll find in the book, the 10-minute walk outside. No music, no podcast, no phone, just a physical movement, fresh air, and you're breathing, right? I did a presentation at the mental health forum I was telling you guys about with a doctor, and he was talking about how he every day makes sure that he gets some of that outside space. Now, depending on where you are, you can't always do that. Because I know I'm here in Texas with all this hair on my head and that heat, your boy ain't gonna be out there in that heat, on God, you know what I mean? But it is something to be said when you can do that 10-minute walk, right? And yes, if you can do it outside where, inside where, you have no distraction, that's the ultimate thing. But I digress. But that 10-minute walk outside with no music, no podcast, no phone, that's the huge one. No distractions. Where you can just get at one with the physical movement, with the fresh air, and just hear yourself and recognize yourself breathing. That mental clarity is not built through these massive, exhaustive, life-changing overhaul. They are actually forged in the quiet, consistent discipline of just small, intentional pauses. And that's what you'll find in the mental clarity reset for men. It's not this, James is a different person tomorrow. It's just those small, measurable additives, if you will. And we're going to simmer and see how we can, again, reclaim some of our mindset, some of our peace, and more importantly, men, reclaiming the real power that we should bring to ourselves into the world as men. Fellas, listen to me, brothers. We've carried this weight long enough. It has to be important to us. As much as we complain in our corners, in our silent places, we have to recognize that we've carried this weight long enough, and we have to lose this toxic masculinity that justifies it. And we have to quit teaching ourselves that means that we're being a man, and anything less than means that we're not a man. It's time to choose resetting. Doesn't make us a bad person. Don't mean I have to throw myself away. But it definitely means that there are times that, just like any device that we use, our car or whatever, there are times we just need a reset. You guys, I poured my heart, my life experience, and everything I know as a master life coach into the mental clarity reset for men. I want you to get this book, and when it drops, not to put it just on a shelf to collect dust, but use it as a tactical guide to take your mind back. And so I encourage you guys, I would love your support on this project, but make sure that it doesn't become one of those things where it collects dust. Keep it by you, put it on your phone, whatever you have to do to keep it close to you. Throw it in your backpack, so to speak. And when you find yourself in those spaces, you may find yourself opening up, man, just gets a micro habit that may just get you through that actual day. But again, use it as a tactical guide to take your mind back. I think a lot of times we do make bad decisions simply because we did not create the proper safe space to even deal with it. So we wind up reacting to it instead of being proactive to it. As I said again, you don't need to become a completely different man to find your peace. Let's just start that mindset right there. And like I said, that could be a whole nother podcast. There's nothing wrong with who I am as a person. There may be something wrong with how I'm reacting, how I'm operating at a low emotional intelligence, how I'm not using the correct mindset or approach. But no, I don't need to become a different person just to find my peace. What we need to do is have the courage to grow from our roots and rise above the noise, even if that means challenging ourselves, even if that means we're challenging the toxic masculinity that we've taught or we've upheld or been taught and just kind of passed down to generation to generation simply because, hey, that's what being a man is. And so, yeah, it may take some true soul searching and looking at that proverbial mirror, but it takes courage to do that, right? And so I think a lot of time we as men, we look for the outside empathy and understanding. And true, that's a conversation for another day because that's important. But we got to have the courage within ourselves to be transparent and look at ourselves without indicting ourselves, without sentencing ourselves to our life sentence by saying, hey, you know what? That's hurting me. That's not helping me. Or hey, I'm worried about that. Or hey, no, I don't have the capacity to address that. Even if I have the know-how, I don't have the capacity to deal with that or to uphold that at a consistent basis. This is our moment to reset. Get in on the mailing list and make sure you share this episode with a brother who needs to hear it. Fella, we got to be in this together. One thing I'll say before I close is when I went to the mental health forum, it was open to men and women, but we did have a space in there where we broke into different groups, right? To where it was just the men, for we can kind of create that safe space and where women could have their own. Fellas, this is a plea. This is not a knock. This is not a diss, but we have to do better. There was not nearly enough men there that we expected. And this is a free event. I challenge you. We show up in a lot of spaces. We're asked to show up in a lot of spaces. Let's normalize showing up for ourselves in spaces who are trying to have these conversations and normalize them and allow us to explore and, more importantly, deal with another side of us that this toxic masculinity have taught us that, hey, just being a man is good enough. No, we're suffering in silence, and it's time for us to be transparent about it. We are worth way more than just our utility. Everything that we're doing right now in this life, God forbid, if something happened to us right now, this world will somehow, some way find somebody else to do it before you even in the ground. And so while we have the time here, yes, it's great that we can accomplish and do all these things, but we have to do better, fellas. And I challenge this, and I say we, owning these spaces, supporting these spaces, and making it important because it is a human thing. It is just not a topic that our female counterparts should bear by themselves. It will allow us to understand them a lot better when they have the conversations and they're trying to share what their needs are from a mental standpoint if we have done the homework ourselves on our part. Look, that's it. That's all I have. As I said again, you guys, I am excited about my new book that's coming out, The Mental Clarity Reset for Men, a practical guide to reclaiming your mind, your peace, and your power. Been working on this one here for a minute. Want to give a shout out to my LB, Derek Owens. He definitely was a great motivation behind me putting this one out next as the next project when it comes to my book writing. And so you guys, you'll get more information on that. In the meantime, you guys, thank you so much for supporting Jay's Corner community. We are steadily growing. I am excited about that. A heartfelt thank you. Every like, every post, every share, every subscription, I see that. Please understand, like I always say, because my capacity don't always allow me to respond in real time, I do my best personally. I don't have anyone who does it to try to respond back to you guys and let you guys know. I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, it's a marathon. It's not a race. We're going to build this with one quality person at a time. And so thank you guys. If you haven't done so already, please share this with some fellas. Please put this in your rotation, just saying for a conversation when you're sitting around with your frat brothers doing what you're doing around your relatives and things of that sort. And my female counterpoint, even share this amongst you guys groups, right? Hopefully this helps you understand our makeup and more important, our need, because we always greatly appreciate you all supporting us in any capacity. But quite frankly, fellas, there is work that we have to do. And so please feel free to actually share this. Remember to follow us on all social media platforms, Jay's Corner on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok, and on Twitter. Coach Jay Hester. So please like, follow, and subscribe there. Also, hit the YouTube page, Coach Jay Hester. Go back, watch some of these other episodes. We've been putting in some real hard work. So if you want to get caught up, if you want to binge one weekend, you can watch all the episodes from its inception of Jay's Corner. And so if you have any questions, don't hesitate to hit me in one of my inboxes, keeping all my inboxes set up to where all confidentiality is predicated. Look, you guys, this has been a great one. My female counterpart, thank you for holding in, giving us the space, man, to get some things off our chest. We're trying to be better for you guys in order that we may be allies, because it's always better to be allies instead of adversaries. Again, this has been Coach Jay. Be on the lookout for the mental clarity reset for men and fellas. Let's make sure, identify that invisible backpack. Let's get that stuff up out of there, man, that's doing a disservice to us. This is your boy, Coach Jay Hester. I'm signing off right now. Talk to you guys later.